Most people will spend 40 years working, saving, and investing, and still retire with less than they need. Not because they didn't earn enough, not because they were lazy, but because nobody ever told them the order. You can do everything right, max out an account, pick the right stocks, save aggressively, and still leave tens of thousands of dollars on the table, just because you did it in the wrong sequence. That is what this video is about. Not which investments to buy, not which app to download. The order in which you move your money and why getting it wrong is one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make without ever realizing it. Let's start with a question. If someone offered to give you $1 today or $1.20 next year, no risk, guaranteed, which would you take? The $1.20, obviously. That is a 20% return on a 1-year hold. No stock in the world offers that kind of guaranteed return. And most Americans either don't know about it or they walk past it every single paycheck while they're busy doing something else with their money. We'll come back to that first. Let's talk about why order matters at all. Imagine you're building a house. You don't pour the roof before you lay the foundation. You don't install the windows before you frame the walls. Every step has a correct sequence, and skipping one doesn't just slow things down. It makes every step after it structurally weaker. Money works the same way. The reason most personal finance advice fails is not because it's wrong. It's because it's scattered. Someone tells you to invest in index funds. Someone else tells you to pay off debt. A third person tells you to build an emergency fund. They're all right. They're just talking about different floors of the same house with no blueprint. Here is the blueprint. Step 1 is so obvious it gets ignored. Before you invest a single dollar, you need a floor under your feet. That means a cash reserve. Liquid, accessible, earning something that covers 3 to 6 months of your actual expenses. If you make $8,000 a month but only spend $4,000, you need $12,000 to $24,000 in cash. Not in the market, not in a retirement account. In a high-yield savings account where you can touch it without penalty, taxes, or delay. Here is why this step gets skipped. But the moment you skip it, every other step becomes fragile. Because without a cash cushion, the first emergency, a car repair, a medical bill, a job loss, forces you to either go into high-interest debt or liquidate an investment at the worst possible time. The math on that is brutal. If you pull money out of an investment account early, you might face a 10% penalty plus ordinary income tax. That can cost you 30 to 40 cents on every dollar you withdraw. Your emergency fund exists so you never have to do that. 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account, earning 4 to 5% as of today. That is step 1. It's not glamorous. It's the foundation. Step 2 is where the free money is. Go back to that $1.20 example from the beginning. Here's the actual deal. Many employers in the United States offer a retirement match through a 401k plan. Typically, if you contribute a certain percentage of your salary, often 3 to 6%, your employer matches some or all of it. That match is a 100% return on your contribution. Immediately before the market does anything. Before fees, before time, before compounding. If you earn $60,000 a year and your employer matches up to 3% of your salary, that's $1,800 a year sitting on the table. Every year you don't claim it is $1,800 you worked for and chose not to take. And because this money compounds over decades inside a tax-advantaged account, that $1,800 contributed at age 25 could be worth tens of thousands by retirement. That is not a guess. That is math. So step 2 is simple. Contribute enough to your 401k to capture every dollar of your employer match. Not a penny less. Not the maximum contribution. Not everything you can afford. Just enough to get the match. Because after the match, the order of priority shifts, and your 401k is not necessarily the next stop. Step 3 is the account most people overlook. Once you have your emergency fund and you're capturing the full employer match, the next priority for most Americans is the health savings account. If you have a high-deductible health plan, you qualify for an HSA. And the HSA is the only account in the American tax code that gives you a triple tax advantage. Your contributions go in pre-tax. The money grows tax-free. And if you use it for qualified medical expenses, It comes out tax-free, triple tax-free. No other account does that. But here's what makes it even more interesting. After age 65, you can withdraw HSA funds for any reason, not just medical, and you'll just pay ordinary income tax. The same as a traditional IRA or 401k, which means the HSA functions as a stealth retirement account with better tax treatment than almost anything else available. The contribution limit for an individual in recent years has been around $4,000. For a family, roughly $8,000. If you have access to this account and you're not maxing it out before moving to other investment vehicles, you are paying more in taxes than you have to. Every single year. Step 4 is the Roth IRA, and timing matters. After the emergency fund, after the employer match, after the HSA, now it's time to consider a Roth IRA. Here is the idea behind it. You contribute money that has already been taxed. It grows tax-free inside the account, and when you retire and withdraw it, you pay zero in taxes. Compare that to a traditional IRA or 401k where you get the tax break now but pay taxes later when you withdraw. The Roth flips the deal. You pay taxes now and everything after that. The growth, the compounding, the decades of gains is yours, untouched by the IRS. The annual contribution limit is currently $7,000 or $8,000 if you are 50 or older. There is an income limit. If you earn above a certain threshold, you phase out of Roth eligibility directly. But there is a workaround called the backdoor Roth conversion that allows higher earners to access it indirectly. That is a longer conversation. The Roth is powerful specifically for younger earners, or anyone who expects to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement than they are today. Because you lock in your tax rate now, when it's lower, and every dollar of growth after that is permanently sheltered. Step 5 is going back to the 401k. After you've maxed the HSA and the Roth, if you still have money to invest, go back to your 401k and push contributions higher, up to the annual maximum. Why didn't we max this in step 2? Because the employer match is free money, and you take that immediately. But beyond the match, the 401k has some limitations. The investment options are often restricted to whatever funds your employer has chosen, which may include high-fee funds that quietly erode returns. The Roth IRA and HSA give you more control, more flexibility, and in most cases better tax outcomes. Once those accounts are maxed and you still have investable income, the 401k maximum becomes the next most powerful tax shelter available, so you return to it. Step 6 is the taxable brokerage account. After all tax-advantaged accounts are maxed, the employer match, the HSA, the Roth IRA, the 401k maximum, anything beyond that goes into a standard taxable brokerage account. This is where there is no tax shelter. You pay capital gains taxes on profits, dividend taxes on income, and you don't get a deduction for contributions. But it also has no contribution limits, no income restrictions, and no withdrawal rules. It is the most flexible account you will ever own, which is why it comes last in the sequence. You use the limited space in tax-advantaged accounts first, then overflow into taxable accounts. Here is where the story gets uncomfortable. Most Americans never make it past step 2. A significant portion never even get to step 1. According to Federal Reserve data, roughly 40% of American adults could not cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. Meanwhile, the stock market has returned an average of roughly 10% annually over the past century. The irony is that the people who most need the power of compounding, the people with lower incomes, fewer assets, less financial safety net, are the ones least able to access it because they never have a floor under them. They skip the emergency fund. They skip the match because they can't afford to defer the income. They definitely skip the HSA and the Roth. And they end up investing, if they invest at all, in whatever is left. Usually a taxable account with no tax advantages, no buffer, and no sequence. The order matters not just because it maximizes returns. It matters because without it, the entire structure becomes fragile at the first sign of pressure. And here is the hidden mechanism that makes this even harder. Inflation every year that your money sits in a checking account or a low-yield savings account, it is losing purchasing power in real terms. If inflation is running at 3% and your savings account pays 0.5%, you are losing roughly 2.5% of your wealth's value each year. silently, without any notification, without any news alert. This is why the order of operations includes the high-yield savings account for your emergency fund and not just a regular checking account, because idle cash has a cost. The goal is not to eliminate that cost. Cash will never be a great investment, but to minimize it for the portion you are required to keep liquid. Now zoom out. If you follow this sequence, emergency fund, employer match, HSA, Roth IRA, max the 401k, then taxable brokerage, and you start at age 25, you could retire at 65 with a materially different financial outcome than someone who invested the same total dollars in the wrong order. The difference is not investment returns. It's tax drag. It's penalties avoided. It's compounding that was never interrupted by an emergency that forced a liquidation. The difference is structural. And here is the quiet irony at the center of all of this. The American tax code is, in many ways, a user manual for building wealth. The HSA, the Roth, the 401k. These are not loopholes. They are features, written into the law, available to anyone who knows where to look and in what order to move. The wealthiest Americans have CPAs and financial advisors who understand this sequence intuitively. They never skip steps. They never misorder the accounts. Everyone else gets sold investment products, stock tips, and motivational content about believing in themselves. And nobody tells them that the order of operations might matter more than any single investment they ever make. The question worth sitting with is this. If the sequence is this powerful, and it's not a secret, and the accounts are available to tens of millions of Americans, why is the median retirement savings for Americans in their 50s still embarrassingly low? Is it access? Is it income? Is it that nobody explains the blueprint clearly enough? Or is there something structural about the way financial products are marketed that benefits from people not knowing the order? That is a question worth spending some time with. If this video gave you a clearer picture of how to sequence your money, not just what to invest in, but in what order, share it with someone who is still building their foundation. Leave a comment with where you currently are in the sequence, step 1 through 6. And if you want to keep thinking clearly about money without the noise, subscribe. Because there is more where this came from.